In honor of all you people who showed up on time, we're going to get started. Biggest pet peeve of mine is when they start late because people are late. I'm like, what? I came on time. As is our tradition, let me begin by honoring and acknowledging that we are on traditional Treaty 6 territory and an important trading center for the Métis Nation. We are so lucky today to have Jay Downton. I'd start with all the businesses he's involved with, but I'd have to be here all night. But for sure, Oilers Nation and Oodle Noodle. And Jay is a graduate of the finance program here at NAIT. And then went off to work in banking for a few years and then made his transition to entrepreneurship. And Kimberly Allison is with us from Marketing RX, is her company. And Kimberly completed the radio and television program and worked in radio and television for many years, made a transition just how many years ago? 9 years ago to entrepreneurship and is the founder of Marketing RX. So we're really lucky to have them lead us through a discussion about how they incorporate social media into their business. We're going to do that for about 30 minutes tops, and then we're going to go into some networking. Before we go into the networking, I'm going to make sure to introduce you to our industry partners who are here in the room so that we can go into it knowing who we're talking to and whatnot and learn from everybody. All right, so over to you two.
Testing.
Yeah. Hello. I got a deep voice, so this might be too loud.
So welcome. Thanks everyone for taking the time to join us today. And Jay, we were just talking about his name. Now we all know how to pronounce it because of the famous show.
Downton Abbey. For a long time, everyone would always spell, even the government, I still get mail from the government as J Downtown from CRA. So I don't acknowledge it.
There you go. In the garbage, it's not happening. That's awesome. So Jay, tell me about, I mean, they call you like the serial entrepreneur. So tell me about how social media has played a role in the success of your various businesses.
Yeah, social media has been very interesting for us. It's obviously a very powerful mechanism for storytelling, brand building, you know, getting your value proposition out to your audience, engaging with the community. So, you know, with everything that we've been involved with, depending on the channel that we're using, some resonate more than others, but social media has been a huge, focus of ours because the ROI is infinite. Right? You're not paying thousands of dollars for 30-second radio spots or TV ads or the production of TV ads. You literally can take your iPhone, shoot a very crappy video, but as long as the content in it's okay, now people will consume it, and you know you're creating impressions of what it is you're doing, and you know you're getting your brand out there. So it's been very, very, very powerful tool for us.
You know, good point. When I used to work in radio sales, I think that was the hardest thing, is I'd talk to a client and they'd be like, we don't know if this is working or not. So tracking the results and the ROI was really, really tough to do. And it's a lot easier in social media. Would you agree?
Well, it's come a long way for sure. Like I remember, like, because we're also in the sales game too. We one of our businesses, we sell ads, and it's where everyone's like, well, we want to be in social media, and they just know the term. They don't know what was behind it at the time. It's obviously evolved. Same with social media. Now you can provide analytics. You can show impressions that you've created, or views, or you know, click-throughs to the other people's website, or whatever links that they want you to drive people to. So yeah, no, it's very powerful. Like the thing about digital media is you can't fake it. All the information's there, so it's a gift and a curse. So it makes you accountable.
Absolutely. So for all of your different businesses, when you started, did you always have a social media strategy when you started, or did you just kind of go in and figure it out along the way and then maybe create something more solid? How did that go?
Yeah, it's interesting. We kind of started doing social media before social media kind of launched. Like when we launched OilersNation.com, it was more just a passion project, thinking that everyone was starting a blog at the time. That was like the first kind of popular kind of social media movement, if you will. And so we launched this blog, and what we did is, me and my partner, like, you launch a site doesn't mean millions of people are showing up next day. It's just, okay, now what? So, we would create our content, but within, like our game day articles, me and him would sit in front of the television and we would create like 10 different aliases and we would talk to each other under these 10 different names with 10 different personas, just in case someone came to the site and then clicked on the article, like, holy cow, there's people talking here. And all of a sudden, we kept making that noise, and then finally someone showed up. And then they would start talking to us, and we would talk to them. And we created some engagement. And then someone else would come in, and then those two would start talking to each other. And like all of a sudden, we were kind of like, it was like Twitter, right? So that was our kind of first strategy without knowing it, and then kind of evolved from there. Like I look back and kind of laugh. Like the Nation's kind of the first business I've built, and when we launched, Twitter was just coming out around the same time or a little bit after. And all we did with our Twitter was we just we wrote a script to just use it as a function to push our articles out, just so people could, oh, okay, the Nation put on an article, we'll go back to the site. That was the first iteration of our strategy. In hindsight, embarrassing. And so once we and meanwhile, we're on our own accounts blabbing about nonsense. We're already doing the effort. We just weren't consolidating under the right brand. So we kind of had that epiphany as we were building it. And then, yeah, from there, put some color, put some, some entertainment, some content, as well as this script we wrote to push articles, because Twitter to this day is still a huge refer of traffic for us. So yeah, it has evolved, and it's kind of funny how we started not knowing anything and just kind of realizing by mistake and also by what other people are doing the changes we needed to make.
Experimenting is awesome. I think that particularly on social media, there's no, hey, do this one thing and you're going to be successful. Unfortunately, just because it's successful one way, it's not going to necessarily be successful in the other way. But I also think when you were talking about building those multiple personalities to talk to each other, like build it and they will come doesn't work. You have to stoke the fire. You have to get people engaged in the conversation, right? So you've done a good job with that.
Yeah, don't learn the wrong lesson. It wasn't burner accounts or anything like that. It was just trying to create the illusion of traffic.
So did you have a certain person or people assigned to each of your businesses doing the social media, or was it kind of one person doing all of them, or?
Well, yeah, it was a function of kind of just me and my business partner initially, just because those are the only two people on the payroll, and there was no pay in it was just a role at the time. But it was just him and I, and then as the team grew, it's always been, depending on the brand, it's always been a little bit by committee. We do have some accounts that are run individually because they might not need that output, but for us, like, especially on the Oilers Nation side and Oodle Noodle side, it's a team. It's done by committee. We're having meetings every week. We're talking about ideas, content ideas, for that exact reason. You have to throw stuff on the wall to see if it takes, because you don't know what your community is going to engage with. And when you find out, then you go deeper to try to build out the community you're chasing. So
speaking of that, like, what has been your, because I've had this before with, we manage the client's social media as well. So, and you do something, you think, what, like, how did that take off? So was there one particular surprise that you thought, why did that go? And it just went whoosh on social media.
Something weird that kind of, like, we've had videos like we put out or that have gotten, hundreds of thousands of views, and you're like, I guess that was good. Like, but like, you just pounced like that, like, especially on like the Twitter side, like Twitter is and I'm talking to a bunch of young people, and they're probably like, Twitter, that's so old. But Twitter is excellent for like real-time news and like immediate engagement on kind of like real-time events. So like if you capture the right thing, it might not look that good, but it might just catch fire. Same thing with Instagram. We kind of, take that same approach to that as well. So we've created things that have gone viral. We've created, some proud moments with Oilers Nation is having the handle trend in Canada multiple times, or doing something that's caught so much attention. It's now on Hockey Night in Canada, and you're being shouted out for something you did on Twitter or Instagram or whatever at the time. So it's kind of funny. So yeah, we've had a few kind of instances where you're like, holy shit, and like your phone's blowing up with like text being like, I just saw you on this. You're like, whoa, I didn't even know what got there. Like, so yeah, it's funny. So yeah, it's and literally it's just silliness, but just timing sometimes is key.
Absolutely, and we talk a lot about, and you mentioned it there, you know, it's timing, but sometimes buzzjacking, like what's going on right now in the world that is either the trending hashtag or something new is going on, and all of a sudden you engage in the conversation in a way that just gets people talking.
Yeah, no, it's, you got to follow, you know, there are strategies to help build followings, especially as a new world that we're dipping our toes in is TikTok, which, you know, is that's a
Who's on the
interesting
TikTok?
place.
Who's on the TikTok? Oh yeah.
So, you know, the hashtagging there is important for us because we're still trying to figure out what we're doing. We're just throwing stuff on the wall and we're seeing our following going up, but we feel like it's, you know, it's very important because as demographics shift and attention shifts, you know, you want to make sure you're getting your brand out there and, you know, entertaining or providing content of value to that demo. So, you know, TikTok's now the now new one, you know, in the lower end.
So TikTok is newly something that you're adding into your portfolio of things to add to your arsenal of social media. So did it replace something, or are you just maybe posting less somewhere else?
Each brand's different depending on who our consumer is. It's kind of interesting. So like it's right now it's not replacing just because we're just going for maximum attention, and like you can it's easy to kind of scale up. Like you can post something on Instagram and push it out to Facebook. Like that's, you know, but it's weird how each audience reacts differently in the different platforms. So for us, it hasn't pushed anything, but what we do is we want to make sure that if we're going to put a bunch of effort behind something, it's going to get attention and it's going to create engagement. So we have like visited all of our accounts across our different brands, and we've now stopped or slowed down the content creation on that channel. So like Oilers Nation, we blast on every channel because the demographic of a hockey fan is, you know, 0 to 100. So we want to hit them on all channels. But things like Oodle Noodle, we see a lot of success from the visual side. So that means Instagram, we put a lot of effort in, and now we're going to start putting some effort behind TikTok because we understand that, you know, kids do sometimes, well, most of the time drive the dinner decisions. So we want to make sure we're having, you know, putting out some fun, good branding stuff there and getting some attention there. And now we don't do so much on Facebook. And now Twitter has really become, we pump out content, but it's more just like a customer service hotline is what it's turned into. But we leverage it, but we embrace that, right? And we pivot and we kind of, okay, well, now let's focus on just creating visual stuff for these two platforms. So it does kind of move around based on who we're trying to talk to.
And do you do any sort of, for lack of a better word, survey to your customers and people to say, hey, where do you want to hear from us? What do you like to see? Are you on TikTok? Are you on, like, does that drive your decisions of where you're putting content as well? Or not so much?
I think more we do surveys of our customers for sure, and we ask kind of like where you know, they pay their most attention on from a social media standpoint. So we do that, but also just like it's tough. Like you just hear the rising tide of like, oh, like everyone's on TikTok or everyone's, you know, on Instagram. Like
Everyone left Facebook.
Everyone left, exactly right. So you kind of just by paying attention and that's the thing. Paying attention, don't get kind of like siloed off like, no, we're just going to be kings of Twitter forever, because then you'll die because now everyone's on TikTok.
Yes, and I've heard once somebody said, don't ever put all your eggs in the social media baskets because you're building your business on rented land. So that's only a part of the business.
Yeah, it's interesting. The timing of that comment's very hilarious. We recently, so yes, diversity is key. And I do say like we stop on certain accounts and we focus on others, but a story of being diverse I will share with you right now, because was it last week or 10 days ago, we had our Oilers Nation Instagram account suspended. Right? And it's, you know, that's an account we had 72,000 followers on, right? It's a huge value provider to our brand partners. It also allows us with our clothing, it's very important, and also like it's a great place to have some fun with the community. So, you know, we were going through the channels to get it back. We got it back last week after like we're talking to the NHL, we're talking to like very high level. We're also, you can't talk to anyone on Instagram. They just like, what happened is they released a new algorithm because I don't know if people are aware or not, but Facebook is under a lot of scrutiny. So they're going to be making some changes, and I know Mark Zuckerberg has said it's going to be uncomfortable for many. And so there's something in this change that's swept and flagged our account, you know, and we haven't done anything wrong. We went and checked with the major stakeholders that we support to say, did you do this to us? And they said no, so that's good. And then so we just like, the cool story is we went to the community and said, like, help free us. Like, spam these guys. Like, tag Instagram and say Free Oilers Nation. And among some other things that we did, submitting, like, you're not talking to anyone, you're sending, you know, information to the ether, which is Instagram support. Yeah, all of a sudden a week later, we're back. 24 hours after that, we're gone again. So, you know, but these are the things, these are the lessons. It's like, okay, well then, what happens if we can never get it back? Are we dead in the water? Are we going to lose a bunch of, you know, ad partners because of this? Like, what's the plan B? Well, we've got a strong Facebook following, we've got a strong Twitter following. Our web's very important. They can never shut us down there. So like, okay, well, let's just like learn from this. Fight to get our account back, but always learn from that thing that, you know, exactly, you're on rented land. You don't make the rules. It's literally just someone can write a script and it just goes and scans Instagram and it'll immediately shut 5 million accounts and you can be one of them. And if you know, if all your eggs in that basket, you're in a lot of risk. So that was an interesting lesson. So we'll fight, we'll get it back. We'll probably lose it again, but we're not doing anything wrong, I swear.
Have you ever, so that was one of the ones, and I mean, it's happened to me actually shut out of Facebook before, where it's like you posted a video or something and you get in Facebook jail. So it happens, it definitely happens where people say to me, how do we reach Facebook and get them to, well, I don't know. I mean, yes, there are some ways to reach Facebook, but like you said, Facebook and Instagram's owned by Facebook. There's no guarantees they're going to talk to you, and there's no guarantees they're going to release anything to you, and they own whatever you've created.
Well, the funny thing about this is, and now I'm just venting, and now you're gonna be like, oh, this guy's just up here whining, but we're an approved and vetted publisher of Facebook, and Facebook actually pays us monthly for the content we create, which is great.
Yes.
But they got to walk across the hallway and talk to their friends at Instagram and say, hey, let this happen. But whatever, that's on them. We'll just keep doing us.
That's interesting. So what has been maybe one of your biggest wins with social media that you thought this was really good for business? Because, I mean, engagement is one thing, building your fan base, whatever, but like a big win because of social media for one of your businesses.
Well, we've won awards.
Okay.
That's pretty cool. We won, there used to be something called the Yeggies in Edmonton.
Right, yeah.
Right, which was a social media award group. And we won. We won as Oilers Nation a few times, and we won as Oodle Noodle. So I think that's just a testament of just validation for what we're trying to do. So that was super exciting. But like I said, anytime we've been trending in Canada for just that means people are sharing our stuff. Like, that's a big win. Anytime something we've done shows up on like a major publication, that's a huge win, and that's happened. We get a lot of those wins on the hockey side because we're just crazy, because there's like 12 people who are responsible for thinking of content and the news that we report on, but also the funny side of like the lifestyle of being a fan. So a lot of we've had some interesting things there, and some interesting user-generated things that have come into us that have gotten a lot of traction because we've kind of built that bridge with our audience. To do that, so that's been some wins. So it's tough to like get kind of specific on it, but like I guess one of the wins is like Little Brick Cafe, which is one of our businesses, is I'm pretty sure the most followed cafe/restaurant in Edmonton. I think like Duchess, which is a bakery, is above us like by a lot, but I think we're number one. I'm not going to put my stamp on that, but
when did the business open?
Opened in March of 2015.
So that's good. So
Yeah. And because of what we did on Instagram, sorry for jumping in, I just thought of something. We got featured in En Route magazine with Air Canada, which I think is high praise.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Good job. That's amazing. So is there something you see, because you're obviously on social media all the time, as am I, that you go, oh, like, don't do this as a person or as a business or as a brand? You see, oh, like, this is really bad. You shouldn't do X.
Oof. That's a good one. I wish I was prepared for that one. Don't do's. Well, there's a lot of things that we've done that you shouldn't do. Well, but like I said, throwing things on the wall, right? You know, like things that are just, you know, you're going to, something we think is funny or something that we think will sell, and then you put it out there and then people just pan it. And you just got to embrace that. So, but whatever, that's just us taking a risk. But the don't do's, I guess, yeah, I guess being clickbaity. That's something that drives me nuts, actually, especially because on the media side, just trying to hook people into, you know, your website or whatever with just some you know, catchy, smutty tagline that, you know, you're going to click to then go not even get anything related to what was said in that tagline. And I know like Google's out there like policing that stuff, and same with Twitter and whatnot, but like that like there's a lot of clickbaity stuff in the media side, especially like in our side, like in our space with sports. You see that all the time. And that's not something that we do, because that devalues our brand, and it's kind of like resenting your community by doing that.
Some business owners will say, well, okay, we're going to post on Facebook or Twitter, and where's the return on investment on this tweet or on this Facebook post? Where's the return on investment? What would you say to that?
Yeah, I guess it all depends. You know, there's on what the mission is. If it's just a brand play and you're creating a post, you know, reach. How many people does that reach? How many impressions does that create? Because that's most traditionally what advertisers are paying for. It's, you know, you're paying a radio station X amount of dollars because they have so many people listen to this station or this show or whatever it is, or so many people watch the show on television. So effectively, it's impressions. Or if you're trying to sell something, it's sales. You know, so that's kind of how we do, or just engagement. Like depending if it's a brand play just for us, how many people are commenting, how many people are sharing just for us, for our ROI, for like, hey, we came up with this, you know, unique kind of content campaign, if you will, and are we getting the ROI? Meaning, like, are we getting a bunch of community engagement? Are we getting more following? Are we getting a lot of interaction? You know, you can view it from a lot of different ways depending on what the kind of mission or purpose is behind what you're posting. But ultimately, it's sales driven.
Yes, and I think that brings up a good point. Is when we work with our clients, we create a strategy so we understand, like, what are you trying to accomplish? Because at the end of the day, you know, one client, like you said, may want to have impressions and they're really trying to build their social media following. Another client is wanting to do website clicks. They really need to do website clicks, but maybe they're looking at conversions. So having that specific strategy and then setting those goals are important, because what do they say? You can't improve what you don't measure. And so if you could be flailing around in social media land and not really know whether it's good or not.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like it's drilling down now. Like in the client side is like what are they trying to chase, and making sure that we're measuring against that particular metric, for sure.
So, as a new person or business going out onto social media, so whether it be, maybe you have some different advice for the different social media channels. I always say Twitter's fun because you can go out there and follow and have conversations, and people don't need to follow you to have a conversation. So I like the ease of Twitter to get into the conversation, start to build a following. But would you have any advice for people just starting out on certain platforms, and, you know, how they start to create a following and get the party started, so to speak?
I like that terminology. Well, all depending on what you're doing is just understanding either what your brand is or your core values are in terms of what if it's just your personal brand, the service, the product you're selling, whatever it is, but understanding what that is, and then also understanding the value proposition that you're providing. If we're talking this as a business, and then from there, honestly, it's just content. Make every mistake. And when I say every mistake, like just post whatever, and once you find kind of what creates that engagement and actually what resonates with you yourself that you know you can go deeper on, then you kind of push it from there. But like engagement's a huge thing, and that's where Twitter's good. Like if you if you take the time to make something and post it through your channels, and someone's willing to like it, or someone's willing to engage and leave a comment, that is a huge opportunity to build someone, or to convert someone to be a loyal consumer of your brand, whether it just be through your social channel or actually start becoming an actual monetary consumer. But those are huge opportunities a lot of people just kind of take for granted, is that engagement piece, because if you create that kind of, that's a new age personal connection, is actually someone commenting on your post and you then replying to that. That's like networking, that's nouveau networking. So
building those relationships. I like to talk about the customer life cycle, and where social media really wins is in the first 3 parts of a customer life cycle, which is that know, like, and trust. And so if you can start getting to know people, they see what you're on about, whatever your mission is, like you said, what do you really care about, what are you talking about, and they like that too. All of a sudden you're building that trust, know, like, and trust, and then eventually they're gonna maybe say, oh, like, what do they sell, what what kind of courses do they have, are they, what kind of business, oh, I haven't heard of your business, I'm going to go try it. So I think, particularly in this day and age where we are bombarded with still advertising messages, a million of them a day. So what sets you apart, what gets your brand in the conversation? That's why I launched my company 9 years ago, is because I realized there was an opportunity to, build a business through conversational marketing, because people don't like to be sold, but they love to buy. So, and that's a very distinct difference. It doesn't sound like much, but it really is. Like, I will buy something because I'm engaged and I'm excited about it. But if you're trying to sell it to me, I'm not interested. And I think a lot of companies with social media try to jump to that buy. They go, okay, I'm going to try to sell somebody on my product or service, instead of, building that relationship with engagement with, like you said, comedy or content, or, building it with educational tips, whatever it is. So, and so that content piece, is it tough to do? So maybe give people an idea on what they need to do to build content, and maybe what kind of tools you use.
Yeah, it's especially if you're just a one-person band starting your own. It's kind of, what are you the most comfortable doing? If it's, not everyone's comfortable doing videos and talking into their phones as content. They're more like to write, or and by write I mean type, or they like to take photos. Like, it's making sure what resonates with you, because you need to make sure you're putting the output as part of that. So, like, for us, it's like, this is why it's a team approach, right? We've got people that can do video. We've got people that can make GIFs, that can make memes, that can just take good photos, that can write good, funny words, or good engaging words, or resonating words. But whatever is your comfort zone, that's where you got to go deep first, and then kind of add the layers to it as you build your confidence. Because a lot of it, especially when you're starting out, like, I know when I was starting, I had zero confidence. I was scared to try to sell anyone anything, because I'm like, why the hell do they want to hear what I have to say, right? Like, so it's like, building that confidence, getting that content output, and like really getting your, value proposition out there, and just hitting everyone with value, whether it's great photography, funny videos, interesting world takes, whatever it is, to kind of build that audience. And then you can come over the top with an ask, because you've earned that trust.
Absolutely. So, and I love that idea of going deep in one way, because I used to talk to companies all the time and say, just choose one thing and do it well, and then expand from there. Because if you're trying to be everywhere, if you're trying to do Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and everything all at once, it's going to be hard as one person, first of all, to get all that content out, and then to see what's working. So I'm a big fan of, like you said, pick one. Okay, if it's TikTok or if it's Instagram, just go do that, and do that really, really well for a number of months. And then once you've figured it out and you have found your audience or whatever, then you can expand on to the next thing. And I think that's a really smart way to go.
Yeah, you can be creating a bunch of you can be creating a bunch of stress when it's not needed. When it's like, well, I have to be on everything.
Yes, and I think that's a common misconception. People are like, well, you got to be everywhere. You got to be on Twitter and you got to be on Facebook.
Now, having said that, you do have to diversify because your Instagram account could get suspended.
Get suspended. So do diversify. So don't just be on one, maybe two.
But start with one and then, add the layers.
Absolutely. So what do you think is the biggest challenge with social media right now and business?
Cutting through the noise, like there's just so much going on there on any channel. How do you break through all that noise, all that chatter? Everyone goes through their timelines and sees just content from all these accounts that you follow. So how do you stand out?
Yeah.
That's ultimately the biggest challenge, and then it goes just back to like making sure that you're trying new things, because if something hits, it's gonna cut through that noise. But that to me is the ultimate challenge. And also, there's a lot of different channels out there to display stuff on, so that is also a challenge, because you can't be a videographer, a writer, a great photographer all at once. So it's the diversity that's a challenge. But just breaking through the noise, because that's where all the attention is. Like we were talking earlier, there's 12-year-old kids who play with toys and make $8 million a year, right? Like that's crazy.
Yeah, when kids grow up nowadays, they want to be a YouTube star.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the number one thing. They don't, so when I was growing up, because I'm a bit old, it used to be I want to be a movie star, right? But now YouTube star, because that's where all the money is.
Well, and the beauty and so the positive also in all this is that the distribution on these platforms is free, right? That's the beauty, though, right? Is that now we've got all these platforms to use to get content out of there. Before you had to it's like being a stand-up comic, hitting those crappy comic Monday open mic scenes and just trying to get attention till someone will put you on TV. So now you could just do that all off Instagram or YouTube or TikTok, whatever it is, and you could build a bigger audience than you ever could imagine before, with the old traditional dinosaur ways.
Yeah, and LinkedIn is another one. I mean, I had a strategy session with a client yesterday, I think it was, and anyway, he said he did his first LinkedIn post. I mean, he's got, I think, 800 followers or something. He's never posted on LinkedIn. He's a very high-end executive president of a very large company. And he did a post about being one of Canada's best companies. And he had 9,000 impressions and had 100 comments. And it blew his mind. He said, I cannot believe it. But, again, like where is your audience? Mm-hmm. And, then how do you take that and leverage it going forward?
I'm super happy you brought up LinkedIn. And I can't believe I haven't talked about it yet. Obviously, like on the entertainment side, it's nothing that and I might be wrong. Maybe we should start using it a little bit more. But from the business side and personal brand side, for myself, I've put some effort into LinkedIn, and it's been mind blowing how effective it is and the reach you can get. And yeah, sure, you get a bunch of DMs from people trying to sell you stuff, but 1 out of 20. There's a legitimate connection you've unlocked that could lead to something, of value to you. I know LinkedIn kind of sounds like the business, social media, and it's not like sexy and fun, but I definitely recommend, on a personal brand or even a business brand, that's a great place to kind of tell a different type of story than what maybe you would on Instagram. I find LinkedIn, the ROI on all social media is infinite, but LinkedIn is a very, very good place to put some content.
And the organic reach on LinkedIn is huge compared to 0.6% now on Facebook. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting. I took the worst photo, but I was just in a moment where I just felt proud. We were having our quarterly franchisee meeting at Oodle Doodle, and we had our 12 franchisees there, and I'm just like, this is great. And I took a photo, and it's just a bunch of people's backs looking at a whiteboard that basically just says Oodle Noodle on it. But I put a little color to it and added some copy to it, and that thing generated 20,000 views. And I'm like, this is the worst photo I've ever taken, but but still, it was the content and just kind of it was in a business tone, and it was a photo about business. But just like if I put that on Instagram, I had like 2 likes.
Yeah. It doesn't, and just cross promoting, and I always say don't wear the same dress to every social media party because it doesn't work that way. Absolutely. What works on LinkedIn doesn't.
We're kind of out of time for this portion, although I could probably sit here for a lot longer. But I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to network. So first, can you guys please help me in thanking Jay and Kimberly for sharing their knowledge?
Thank you so much. Very kind of you.
First, I'm going to mention for the students, please don't forget we have a Ain't No Plan Like a Business Plan event on February 27th. March 2nd, 6 key lessons on being a new entrepreneur from a CPA coming in to talk about that. And then there's the Innovation Challenge presented by Raptor Mining coming up with a chance to win $3,000 that we're giving away this year. So you want to look into that as well. So how this is going to go down is I am going to first go around and introduce all of our industry partners who are in the room so you guys know who's here to talk to. And so you'll know who's here. But I also want to say that if you're talking to somebody or you're talking in a group, please leave your group open so that somebody can freely walk in and join the conversation and not feel like they're intruding. Because this is, after all, about networking and helping you learn how to network and growing your network. And so we want to do that in a really easy way that's not going to feel like you're awkward, okay? So that's how we're going to do it. So first I'm going to go around and make some... So I'm going to start over here. I knew it. I was like, Marina. So just quickly introduce yourself.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so my name is Marina Knizer. I work at Mindable, so we're a digital publishing company based in Sherwood Park.